MSF funds 4 shelters run by voluntary welfare organizations for women who have been abused domestically. They provide temporary accommodation and assistance such as counseling to the women and their children. The funding covers the capital development of the shelters as well as part of the operating costs. Tackling domestic abuse requires strong partnership amongst the government and community partners. For this reason, MSF works with non-government organizations in public education initiatives such as community roadshows, radio and TV programs to promote awareness on family violence. The Ministry also works through the multi-agency National Family Violence Networking System to allow victims to approach community facilities such as shelters and family service centers or the police and other government agencies for assistance. However, some domestic abuse victims may be reluctant to seek help. Members of the community can play our part by reporting abuse immediately and seeking help for affected individuals and families.
Mr. Christopher D'Souza.
I thank the Minister for his response. One of those shelters called Day Spring is within Holland-Bukit-Timah GRC's constituency, and they fulfill the task of putting abused women and children back into school or at work, and I've visited them. Arising out of the response and my visit, I asked a supplementary question, whether the government would, or in particular MSF, would provide more space in terms of the shelter accommodation. Secondly, whether they will be able to work with support networks to facilitate the reintegration of the abused women and children, either in school or at work. And thirdly, whether more could be done to partner as between the government and charities or the private sector, the support that these children and women need. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, thank Mr. Chris D'Souza for the questions. Let me answer them in reverse order. The answer to the third question is yes, certainly we would like to partner more BWOs and community organizations to help the families in need to reintegrate with the communities. On the second questions, again, the answer is yes, we would like to provide the support networks necessary within the bounds of confidentiality, which comes to the first question, is that we will definitely allocate sufficient space for the families to reintegrate with the community, but we also seek the community support that some of these cases are rather challenging and some confidentiality will be required for them, and especially the children, to integrate back into the community.
Mr. Alex Yam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like just to ask the Acting Minister for a quick clarification. My understanding is that many of these crisis shelters do allow the children of abused women to be housed with them, with the exception of older boys within the family. I'm wondering if this is something that the Ministry is looking at addressing, and whether there is a downstream impact on the family unit if these older boys within the family are not allowed to be housed together with their mothers.
Madam Speaker, I thank Mr. Alex Yam for the question and comment. Yes, indeed, there is an existing rule that we, as far as possible, we try to house the entire family together. But if the boys are of a certain age and it's not suitable to be housed in the same shelter, they'll be housed in alternative arrangements. But we do make arrangements for them to make sure that the family spend time together to rebuild their lives as much as possible.
Mr. D'Souza.
Minister, in relation to my supplementary question on space, I'm given to understand that there are some shelters, certainly one shelter in particular, which is being given a concessionary rate for rent from the Singapore Land Authority, SLA. But with many of these territories which are belonging to SLA, the leases are coming to an end and the territory is being used for some other development. So my question or my request on behalf of these organizations is whether MSF could facilitate an appropriate rehousing of these shelters so that the charities work can continue, notwithstanding a short lease?
Madam Speaker, the answer to the question is yes, certainly, because the services that we provide for many of these vulnerable families indeed needs to be on a sustained basis. So we certainly will need to relocate them and help them to continue to provide the services to the families in need, even if for whatever reasons the SLA or URA requires to repossess the land.